So, when I was growing up, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 for the Super Nintendo was my first exposure to Mortal Kombat, and as an impressionable 10 or 11-year-old or so, I thought the ultra-violence was extremely appealing, and one of the characters that always really drew me in was Shao Kahn, the big baddie himself, and ever since then I've had a soft spot for him. So, when Storm Collectibles announced that they would release a Mortal Kombat 2/3 Shao Kahn, I was beyond ecstatic. It was the version I wanted. I didn't like his modern appearances in Armageddon and Deception and MK9, because I don't know, there was just something off about the character. But then something happened. MK11 got announced, and Shao Kahn had a triumphant return to looking like an absolute Chad. And you know, in the reveal trailer, I didn't really like what he looked like. I thought all this was alright. I thought the arm spikes were a bit weird, because he never had them before. And I thought the helmet was a bit too much, mainly because of these gigantic horns he's got going on. But eventually I did warm up to it. Also seeing it in action, you know, made everything better. And it sort of made me realize that as much as I love the original Shao Kahn design, he sort of just looks like he came from a bachelorette party. So yeah, let's take a look at these figures comparatively. And you know, the original Shao Kahn, he was played by Brian Glynn, who was a bodybuilder, and he got like a cheapish costume to wear, and honestly that's what this figure looks like. It looks like this massive dude in really cheap props. And you know, I love him, but it also, yeah. I also think Storm Collectibles has this thing where they tend to make their characters like extremely bulky. And, you know, Brian Glynn was a big dude, but he didn't quite look like this. Shao Kahn in the game was a little bit slimmer. This guy, he looks a bit stout. And there are several things about the articulation that I don't particularly like either, but in comparison, this guy, he looks a bit leaner, more realistic, I guess, if you can say that, with a guy who has horns coming out of his forearms. I mean, next to each other, he looks a little bit dweeby, but let me demonstrate. Here is the Storm Collectibles Ryu, and, you know, the McFarlane Shao Kahn just pretty much towers over him. So, this is just in comparison to each other. This guy looks a bit small, but I assure you he looks perfectly fine otherwise. Yeah, so we can take a look at the hammers to begin with. The Storm Collectible hammer has a beautiful metallic paint job. It's also the classic hammer, so there's not like any extravagant spikes or anything on it. It's just like a big, meaty, chunky piece of metal. And the McFarlane hammer has some more detail. Got a little bit more spikes, got a little bit more ornate colors, but it also looks like it's in severe need of some Viagra, because this thing is just collapsing under its own weight. You see, like, it's too heavy and this plastic is too soft. Meanwhile, this hammer here, it's a lot stiffer. So aside from that, things that really annoy me about the Storm Collectibles guy is that, one, the shoulder pads are a bit flimsy. They just sort of, yeah, you see, they're also very rubbery, so, I mean, in a way, I guess that makes them go away when you need the arms to, like, go up and stuff, but there's also this head. So, look at this. You see how he's looking completely forward, and now when you put the helmet on, he just looks like he's looking down. And it's a tad annoying. I always feel like I need to raise the head, but then the head comes off, because this peg is so tiny that you have absolutely no up and down movement. You have side to side, and then usually what happens is the helmet gets misaligned, and you get to see that face underneath again, which is actually a really good face sculpt. But yeah, you need to always line it up with the eyes. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Not that Shao Kahn really needs to look, you know, up, because he's usually a lot taller than everyone else, but, you know, some options would be alright, especially since the head keeps popping off if you try to raise it ever so slightly. There's also this. Brace yourself. Ooh. That is the most worrying sound I've ever heard for an arm joint. But aside from that, his articulation is great. He's got, like, you know, swivels everywhere and 90-ish elbows. He's got a nice torso joint and legs that can do pretty much most things you would want it to. I have an issue though. This leg comes off very easily. It's nothing that really ruins the figure, it's just like a tad, wait, what just happened? Another thing is these things. So I've had my Shao Kahn sitting down for the most part, and the rubber for this skirt piece has like reshaped itself to be pointing outwards, which is a tad annoying. Like, he's been sitting like, oh, here we go with the leg again. He's been sitting like this for the most part, and I guess that makes the rubber flex and it just gets used to the shape, I guess. But it's a tad annoying. So looking at the McFarlane Shao Kahn, on the other hand, he has, you know, fine head articulation. He can look up, he can look down, he can look from side to side. I also am a big fan of this asymmetrical shoulder armor with the spikes here and the red here. It just, like, gold and red I never thought would look as good as red and silver like the original, but I'm a sucker, and I'm an absolute sucker for this gold and red color scheme. He's got a nice, like, swivel here. It doesn't really go up and down that much, but working with the waist twist, you can get some pretty naturalistic side-to-side poses here, I think, because this just needs to twist a little bit to follow the shape. But more so, he's got... Oh, I didn't actually realize, but this armor is attached down here, so you can bend this decently. The only thing is this armor will flex a little bit, but that's alright. This arm flexes all the way up, spins there. He also has a bicep swivel here. It's a bit stiff, but it's alright. Double jointed elbows, more than 90. It's not particularly the most attractive joint though. It looks pretty bad, not gonna lie. But McFarlane's joints in general look pretty bad, so what can you do? The hips are unfortunately the sore point here. He can kick forward like a bit, but I think the stiffness of this this rubbery piece is sort of hindering it. I wish this was a softer material, more like the Storm Collectibles piece, but he can kick out like a little bit. And he's got double jointed knees, also really stiff, but they can bend a decent amount. And then he's got McFarlane's usual ratchet joints down here. And a nice little ankle rocker. This guy is also in need of some paint, like the aforementioned spikes here on the arms needs to be painted. I think his toes need to be painted too. I'm not really sure if he's wearing some kind of like shoe, but that wouldn't make any sense because the clawy toenails are, yeah, they shouldn't be shown off like that if he had socks on, so I guess I'll have to repaint that at some point. The head is also very nicely painted. I think, however, that they missed the mark on the eyes a little bit, because you can sort of see the contours of some sculpting where the eyes could potentially be. And I'm contemplating repainting it, but at the same time it does look pretty good, so I don't really know if I can be bothered. But, you know, all in all, I think I like this guy more. Like, this guy is, you know, great, and he's got accessories, he's got... he got some alternate hands and an alternate screaming head, but I would never really use those. And there the helmet goes again. Now you need to align it. There we go. And now the head came off. Okay, pretty much everything that annoys me about the figure just happened in the span of like 5 seconds. There we go. So yeah, I'll probably sell this guy, to be honest, and do this guy up a little bit with some paint. And I already have a plan for the hammer, actually. I'm gonna cut this entire bit off, and then I'm gonna have this screw instead as the middle piece, so you get a nice solid center. Also, if you're curious, the McFarlane Shao Kahn can't really use the Storm Collectibles chair. I mean, this looks alright, I guess, but he's sort of like hovering a little bit, and his arms can't really reach to the posts here. Yeah, looks alright-ish, but yeah. Also, this throne isn't really all that great either. It's just like a big rubber piece. Like, listen. Yeah, it's completely hollow and weighs nothing. But yeah, that's my little Shao Kahn comparison video. Hope you enjoy.